This is the Capitol Rundown.
We can agree with some and some we don't agree with, but this one here I thought the wrong decision.
The reason that all of this got done is because Governor Whitmer and I have really forged a good working relationship.
I love John James. He's a great guy, but I think he's more value. He serves more value to his constituents and the nation if he keeps that seat.
It's all straight ahead. The Capitol Rundown starts now. Thanks for joining us. I'm Jorma Duran. There's a lot of political news from Lansing to Washington, D.C., so let's get you caught up. On Tuesday, Governor Gretchen Whitmer signed into law measures that reform earmark spending in the state budget process. One of those reforms is that earmarks, sometimes called pork barrel spending, have to be disclosed to the public 45 days before a vote can take place. That was a compromise between the Republican-controlled House, who wanted a longer time period, and the Democratic-controlled Senate, who wanted a shorter one. Other measures include publicly disclosing lawmakers who are making the request and if there are any conflicts of interest. Insiders say this legislation is an example of the bipartisanship it took to get this year's state budget finally passed. In a statement on Tuesday, the governor said, quote, "I'm proud to sign these two bills that require lawmakers to put their names on any projects they propose. I'll keep working with anyone to serve Michiganders and increase transparency in our government." Earmark reform was a priority for Republicans when they took control of the State House. In October, after the state budget passed, Republican House Speaker Matt Hall said pork barrel projects have been a problem in Lansing for years.
I really think the reason that all of this got done is because Governor Whitmer and I have really forged a good working relationship. I never really thought that we would have come into this and had so much alignment with Governor Whitmer. This was an area where there was some conflict, but we found a compromise.
Last year, the state had about $1 billion in earmark spending. This year, it was about $460 million. Speaking of the governor and the state economy, she wrote an op-ed in the Washington Post on Monday saying President Trump's tariffs are, quote, crushing Michigan. She goes on to write, despite the president promising to bring down everyday costs for Americans on day one of his administration, the governor says food prices are up, a new car costs more than $50,000 on average, and housing costs are too high. Last week, the president backed off from some of his tariffs, hoping to bring down grocery prices that include coffee, beef, and bananas. And staying with food affordability, advocates against hunger voiced their concerns about food insecurity at a roundtable discussion with Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel on Tuesday. It was hosted by the Michigan League for Public Policy. Although SNAP benefits are now restored to Michiganders, Federal Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins says SNAP recipients will need to reapply to crack down on fraud. Advocates say a reapplication process would negatively impact thousands of people. Nessel says new rules put in place will also make it harder for Michiganders in marginalized groups.
You heard from the disabled community and how difficult it can be for them to navigate the process. Having internet access, having the ability to do that, those are the kinds of things where it deters people from participating in a program that they otherwise are eligible for.
Exemptions were also removed for homeless people, veterans, and young adults who were in the foster care system when they turned 18. Those not able to receive SNAP benefits include refugees, asylum seekers, and residents granted legal protection for humanitarian purposes. Well, coming up, our Capitol correspondent Tim Skubic will be here for you with a look behind the scenes in Lansing. Plus, Tim will have a report on Republican Congressman John James and why his fellow conservatives are questioning his strategy in his run for governor. We'll have that and a whole lot more next on the Capitol Rundown. Welcome back. Things are moving fast in Washington, and Democrats are hoping things are changing enough to give them a shot at retaking the House of Representatives next year. Our Capitol correspondent Tim Skubic is taking a look at one seat the Democrats are looking to snag next November.
The fourth-ranking Republican in the U.S. House of Representatives is Michigan Congresswoman Lisa McClain. She is telling everybody that if John James does not run for his Macomb County seat and for governor instead, that, quote, puts that district at a greater risk of being flipped by the Democrats. It's 100% not ideal. Hence, she wants Mr. James to get out of the governor's race. In a public meeting recently, President Trump chided the congressman who was in the room about not running for his congressional seat. Obviously, he is concerned, as is one of his friends, Representative Matt Maddock, a close confidant of the president, and he warns Mr. James he will not get the president's endorsement. For his part, John James shows no signs of getting out of the race, despite those who argue it is selfish. But is it? Do you think it's selfish for him to run?
I love John James. He's a great guy, but I think we need to. I think he's more value. He serves more value to his constituents and the nation if he keeps that seat.
If President Trump calls you up and says, "Hey, I'm endorsing John James," you're not going to fall in line.
That's not going to happen.
Trump will not endorse John James.
No.
But Michigan veteran Republican Congressman Tim Walberg has a different take. He believes that the seat can be saved for the Democrats, and while it's possible that Mr. James could cost the party the seat, he doesn't think that will likely happen.
Well, that's always a possibility.
Plus, Mr. Walberg argues they'll find somebody who can win. He also quickly adds that by the time the election rolls around next year, the new Trump economic growth package will kick in with lots of tax savings for voters. So he argues we'll find somebody who can win if James is out.
We will find a candidate, I believe, who can win and take his place.
Some speculate that President Trump will find a way to get Mr. James to get out of the governor's effort. So far, no apparent signs of that yet. Here for you in Lansing, Tim Skubic.
And Tim talked to the Rundown's Dalen Huff about some other political moves in Lansing, including the debate over data centers.
It's time to get updated on Michigan politics, and there's nobody better than our own Tim Skubic. Tim, local governments around the state are dealing with zoning issues and new manufacturing, and now data centers are a part of the debate. What's the concern over these building projects?
Yeah, where to begin on this thing? This is going to be very controversial because on one side we have the group that are very pro data centers. That is, they want to put these energy gobbling up entities, the opponents say, into rural areas and really create a lot of high-tech jobs. And these, of course, these data centers are the wave of the future. Here's the rub, though, from the environmentalists and others and the opponents who come locally to these projects, and there's one pending in Saline down near Ann Arbor, is basically this. These entities gobble up a huge amount of energy, massive megawatts of juice that they need. DT Energy is sponsoring or wants to get this project done in Saline. They say they can handle that. And also, they also gobble up a ton of water to keep everything inside the data centers cooled. So you put those two together, and a lot of folks are saying, this, jobs are one thing, but jobs at this cost is quite another. Now, what's going to happen is the Michigan Public Service Commission finally decided it needed to have a public hearing on this issue to allow the people to have their say. So you've got competing interests here, a case to be made for both. The question is, will this end up in data centers in Michigan or not?
In switching to Michigan schools, the recent funding bill calls for more than $300 million for schools to deal with safety issues, but they have to waive certain rights to get that money. Now the schools are doing the same. So what's the latest?
Yep. Well, this is a sticky wicket for the schools because on one hand, the state is waiving $321 million at them, money that they could get a portion of for the mental health services for school kids. All of the kids, or many of the kids, need that, and also to beef up their security to protect the kids from another mass shooting. With this proposal, what they did, however, is that they inserted language that if you want the money, here are the strings you're going to have attached. That is a loss of the attorney-client privilege. Uh-oh. School districts are saying, wait a second, you mean we can't talk to our attorney or we have to disclose all that stuff to you in order to get this money? Well, 30 of the school districts are saying we want no part of this. They want the federal courts to say this is unconstitutional. But in Lansing, I talked to the guy who runs the School Board Association, and he theorizes that Lansing does have financial difficulties, and indeed they could use the money, and what school district couldn't? So it's a weighing, a balancing here of equities, and Lansing said yes, but 30 school districts are saying no way, and they're asking the courts to side with them.
Well, just ahead, some Michigan lawmakers in D.C. want to limit the power of the president when it comes to issuing pardons. But first, what once seemed impossible in the nation's capital finally came to pass this past week. Congress almost unanimously ordered the Department of Justice to release the Epstein files, and the president signed the bill the very next day. That story, much more, is coming up next. Welcome back. A bill to release all the Epstein files was signed by President Donald Trump on Wednesday night. It comes after both the House and Senate passed the legislation Tuesday. Lawmakers say they hope this leads to full transparency. Our Washington correspondent Maddie Beard-Temple is following what's next.
The vote is not the end, it's only the beginning.
The president's signature on the bill Congress passed forcing the release of more Epstein files gives the DOJ a 30-day deadline. He previously opposed the effort, but reversed course and earlier this week said he would sign it.
We'll give them everything. Sure I would.
The bill does include exceptions. The DOJ can refuse to release material that could jeopardize an investigation or harm victims, something Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche pointed out Wednesday.
The law has carve-outs to protect victims and to protect information surrounding victims, which is what we do not only in this case, but in every case. Neither the House nor the Senate's version, the same version, suggested otherwise.
Last week, President Trump ordered the DOJ to investigate Epstein's ties with several prominent Democrats, including former President Bill Clinton. That investigation in the Southern District of New York is now underway. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer says he hopes it's not a reason to withhold information.
There must be no funny business from Donald Trump. He must not use the excuse of frivolous investigations to release some Epstein documents while intentionally hiding others.
The president's name appears in previously released documents from Epstein's estate. He maintains he was unaware of Epstein's criminal behavior. In Washington, I'm Maddie Beard-Temple.
With the vote to release the Epstein files now behind them, two of Michigan's lawmakers on Capitol Hill are pushing for an end to the presidential pardon. Democratic Senator Elissa Slotkin said in a video posted on social media that the presidential pardon, which is in the U.S. Constitution, doesn't make sense in the modern world. Earlier this month, the president pardoned 16 people involved in a plot to assign Michigan's electoral votes to him instead of Joe Biden in the 2020 election. However, that doesn't apply to state charges, although those were dismissed against 15 of those people in September. Also, President Trump hasn't ruled out a pardon for Ghislaine Maxwell, the convicted child sex trafficker who was the girlfriend of the late Jeffrey Epstein, an associate of the president. On Tuesday, Congresswoman Haley Stevens, a Michigan Democrat, joined Slotkin in opposing the pardon powers. In a social media statement, she said, quote, "It's time to stop protecting Donald Trump and to start protecting survivors. The presidential pardon power has been used to reward political allies." Well, later on the rundown, Governor Gretchen Whitmer took part in a Thanksgiving tradition at the state capitol. And right after the break, a federal court in Texas just dealt a blow to President Trump's plans for holding on to Congress. Those stories when the Capitol Rundown returns. Welcome back. On Tuesday, a federal court blocked Texas from using a new redrawn U.S. House district map. It was a big part of President Donald Trump's attempt to hold on to power in Congress. Judge Jeffrey Brown, who was appointed by President Trump, said the new map harms Black and Hispanic voters. Vinay Simlot has the details.
As Republicans and Democrats fight over control of the House of Representatives in the 2026 election, two federal judges in Texas just dealt a blow to Republican efforts to try and get 5 more seats in the House of Representatives for Republicans. Now, the federal judge who wrote the opinion called it racial gerrymandering, that Texas officials were trying to use race to draw congressional districts. We heard from some congressional Republicans.
A little concerned about that. I'm not worried about my district because you're not beating me in my district. We can agree with some and some we don't agree with, but this one here I thought the wrong decision.
Do you have any reaction to that?
I haven't even seen it yet, yeah.
If you look at the map, you can see that it was drawn in ways that are fair and free and open.
We also caught up with Mark Vesey. He's a Dallas area Democrat, and in these new maps, the legislators set up a primary between him and Julie Johnson to try to put the two of them against each other and get one of them out of Congress. Here's what he said.
The maps that the Republicans drew were so racist and so discriminatory that I'm surprised that they could even concoct such a scheme in their head. I'm feeling good about where we are legally.
Okay. The court ordered Texas to use the maps that were drawn in 2021, not the ones the legislature drew this year in 2025. And if Republicans want to appeal, the next step will be at the Supreme Court. In Washington, I'm Vinay Simlat.
When we come back, we'll take you to the Capitol, where a pair of sisters just got a reprieve from the governor. And Tuesday, the annual pardoning of turkeys. Those details are straight ahead. Welcome back. Thanksgiving is this Thursday, and 2 turkeys here in Michigan got pardoned just in time.
I hereby pardon Fago and Berners. Congratulations.
This year, the governor pardoned a pair of turkeys who are also sisters, Fago and Verners. In previous years, names have included Aiden Cluckingson, Dolly Pardon, and Mitchie Gander. And the puns didn't stop there on Tuesday.
Let's get down to business. We're here to pardon Fago and Verners from Mayberry Farms. Their names were selected from 1,527 submissions. We pulled the top 8 pairs, and Michiganders voted to crown the winner.
Fago and Verners are now under the care of Macomb County Animal Control. Turkey pardons have been carried out by U.S. presidents for decades, but Governor Whitmer began the tradition in Michigan in 2022. And if you're interested in getting more political news from Michigan and Washington, we've got just the thing. You can sign up for our Capitol Rundown newsletter. It's just 1 email each week, and you can get it by pointing your cell phone camera at the screen right now. It'll take you to the sign-up page, or you can head to our website, WLNS.com/newsletters. And that's our show for this week. Thanks for watching the Capitol Rundown.